All right, everybody, we are out here going to give you a first 2023 ice report, and we decided to go to the Green Bay side of the world. And since I'm not very familiar with this area up here, we recruited Bob Kloss, Captain Bob of Fin Fanatic Charters. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good today.
Are you excited to do some ice reports?
Yeah, I am actually. I've only been walking on the shoreline in a couple spots this season just because it's been pretty sketchy. So to get out and walk around a little more and see what we got going on is good.
So Bob's been obviously a lot in the podcast chat, and we've been mentioning trying to get him on, and I figured this is a perfect way. So the first stop of our day here today is the 12th of January. We'll get to everybody that because conditions could quickly change with the upcoming forecast. Obviously, check the forecast. So we're right here at Voyager Park, right on the Fox River. You can see there are a couple of shacks around us right now. And Bob's got a great tool here. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you some depths here from Voyager. We're only, what do you think, about 30, 40 yards offshore?
30 yards, 25, 30 yards right
25, 30 yards. So we're going to drill the first hole here, and then we're going to get you a ice report. Don't snap your wrist.
Yep. That's about maybe 5 inches right there.
Yeah.
Yep, 5.5 to 6 inches.
So right here off of shore, just barely offshore, there's 5.5 to 6 inches. Now, again, being the 12th of January, it is important to note that we did have some rain in some of the areas, so that means the river could be flowing a little more than normal, right?
Yeah, we got a little more current in the last couple days. We didn't get a ton of rain up here, but down to the south they did, so that's pushing more current this way. There's more rain coming potentially. We definitely have more open water in spots along the river than we had a week ago. Downtown is open water. So definitely you got to pay attention to that right now.
So this kind of like definitely have your spud when you come out here. I mean, don't trust the fact that you see some people out here that the ice conditions are really good. You could walk, well, let's just do it. Let's walk out another 30, 40 yards and see what we got. And the ice conditions too, like it looks like it's good, but it's black too. It's kind of moving fast.
Yeah, and I think some of these white patches are going to be real mushy also.
So again, this is our first report of 2023. We're walking out here from Voyager Park. Here's an open hole right there. Cleats are very important, so if you don't have some Catulas or some good spikes from the thereelshot, stop down and get them. A little more here.
Yep. About 6 to 7 right there.
So that's actually, it's getting a little bit better when we go out. Scott, we're going to go out a little bit further, so slam that zoom button. So the big thing too, Bob, is like there's not a lot of snow in the forecast. What is that going to do for these conditions as well?
Well, the one good thing will be if it does get a little colder, get below freezing at night with no snow, you will start to contain or build the ice a little, but we're not going to be making ice a ton at all, really. It'll be maintaining what's here possibly, but that rain is going to deteriorate. It's going to make this punky on top. If we get a good amount of rain, it'll be water on top, and then it drains in the holes. It'll widen holes. It'll just like springtime, you know.
So again, let's go out. Let's go out another 20 yards, 20 paces here. We've been hearing a lot of walleyes and whitefish in this area right now?
Yeah, guys have been reporting getting good catches of walleyes and some whitefish that have still been lingering in the river here after they spawn. So that the activity down here has been good, but I've had reports from some of the guys I know that have been out here regularly, areas of 2 inches of ice. Yeah. So,
all right, so now we're 75 to 80 yards off of shore. Let's get one more fire. Now, it is important to note, too, down by the dam area, by the mill, there's open water. And you said over by Fox Point there was some open water on the other side of the river?
Yeah, I stopped at Fox Point this morning, and it looks like from the water treatment plant north, there's a big patch going towards the Joliet Park of open water this morning. It could be just some water on top or a glare spot, but it looked like open water over there.
Okay, so we're going to get one more report here from the Voyager area.
Yeah, that one looks about 5.
Yeah, so there's only about 5 out here. Now we're closer, 100 yards off of shore. So by the time this hits, this should go out tomorrow, which is the 13th. And the warm-up we're having next week, this could be quite a bit less.
Yeah, I think when I looked this morning, the forecast for Sunday, Monday was up in the 40s. And we've got that rain coming. So it's going to deteriorate this quite a bit, especially in the river. So you definitely have to watch what you're doing. If you're coming off of Voyager and going towards the dam, coming off the fairgrounds, I mean, that current ripping through this corner will deteriorate this stuff pretty bad.
So where we are right now, roughly about 100 yards offshore, is the current like really heavy here, or is the main channel all a little more?
Yeah, the current right here probably not so bad because of the point and the way it comes out. This is in a little bit of a slack water almost always. So the main current is going to be out towards the channel and up into that flat on the other side that we get because of the way it comes off the dam. So there's probably not as much current right here, but if we got out another 100 yards, if we drop something down, you wouldn't see a ton, but if you get out 100 yards, you'll see more current on your bait for sure.
All right, so this is the first report here of the day. We're probably going to head up the east shore, hit some of the more popular spots that Bob thinks we're getting a lot more activity. But here, Voyager Park, we are right off the park itself. There's anywhere from where Scott is up there about 30 yards off of shore. We had 5 inches to 7 inches in a spot, and then again 5 inches out here.
Yeah, 5 here, and I mean, I don't know what these guys are sitting on. If we went out another 100 yards, I wouldn't be surprised if we hit about 3.
Yeah. Let's not find out what 3 looks like today. It's very good. All right, so that's the first report. Again, we're going to be hitting up at least 7 to 8 spots today and giving you the ice reports in this condition or in this area, the Green Bay area. But remember, things could change rapidly, so definitely be safe when you hit the ice. All right, stop number 2 of the 2023 Green Bay Ice Conditions Landing Report with Bob Klaus from Fanatic Charters. We're at Joliet Park, so we just cruised up a little ways from Voyager Park. We are still on the east shore, and we're not far again, probably 80 yards off of shore, and we just punched a hole, and what did we get here?
Just under 8 inches right here, so not bad. Ice is in decent shape right here. This is, the back kind of that west side of University Bay. This can be a pretty popular spot for some early ice walleye, maybe a pike, and whitefish that come through here.
Whitefish too. So like one thing he was mentioning, when the boats do go through the, what do you call those big boats, the cutters or whatever?
Oh, well, the icebreaker was down, the Mackinac was down here, and we've had plenty of boat traffic. I think there's been a boat every couple of days just about coming in. There's been fuel shipments coming into Green Bay. I think there's some aggregate still coming in.
Okay.
So there's been boats moving this way.
So, but what were you saying with the point here and the boats?
Yeah, this has been kind of locked in, if you will, for a little while, University Bay, because Point Sable up in front of us here connects with Frying Pan Shoal, goes all the way out to the channel. So it's harder for this ice to move out.
Okay.
Even when things blow out on the lake in the spring, this can be ice in here for quite a while. So this ice has been kind of sitting here for a long time, even though it's a little water on top. If we kept going, I don't know what we'll find out there. You don't have to go far offshore to fish this typically. There's a lot of log and some mixed rock and underwater structure. Like when we fish this in the spring, if you got your side imaging on, you'll see all that stuff down here. And that's what guys kind of target around here.
What are the, so if they are coming out this far, say we get 150, 200 yards, what is the depths out in this area?
We're probably in about, if I had to guess, we're probably in about 5 feet here. And if we get out another 100 yards, 8 to 9,
okay.
maybe 10, pushing 10.
Okay.
It doesn't get much deeper than that until you get out a little bit further, maybe 12. But University Bay is not deep at all.
So Joliet Park here, we're right off of, what is this, 57?
Yeah, Nicolay Drive.
Nicolay Drive.
Yeah, 57 to Nicolay Drive, basically. So we're just this side of the highway.
So so far there's 8 inches. We're gonna walk out probably another 50, 100 yards, drill a couple more test holes just to see what we got, just to make sure. But so far, ice is really good condition right here. Fishing hopefully is gonna maintain being good. Now, as the season progresses, does this spot get better or get worse for fish catch wise?
Whitefish activity here that will probably slow down and almost nothing because these fish are probably migrating north. The walleye activity can be up and down throughout the winter.
Okay.
And then guys will go and fish this bay up here behind Point Sable for some pike. Okay. Because in the spring and the summer, there's weed growth up in there. So I'm sure there's some pike playing around there. So this activity will slow down throughout the year. Now, late ice, you might again have some walleye activity picking up here if you can get out. But it's a good spot to walk off if you don't have the equipment to drive way out. You can't access with the 4-wheeler right here or anything. It's just walk out.
All right, well, let's walk out a little bit more. What about cracks? Do there ever any big cracks that form on this spot of the world?
I mean, it can happen, certainly. But this bay, University Bay from the shipping channel over is a little more protected.
Okay.
Even if a strong wind is blowing, it's hard to push this ice because of that sandbar. Now you get north of here, any wind, offshore, south wind, you got to really watch it, especially when there's open water, because those areas, if you get out and get across a crack, that wind pushes, it'll blow you out. There's no doubt about it. Here, you're probably a little less likely to have that happen. So.
Okay, well, again, let's fire one more test hole. You definitely see the ice looks good again.
Yeah.
Almost 9.
Almost 9. Yeah, 8.5 or so.
Yep. All right, so Joliet Park here. Even if the fishing's not good and you're looking to get out for a couple hours and do a little fishing, the ice is definitely in good condition here as of right now. Again, pay attention to the future cast with the weather. Make sure that something doesn't change. If we get a warm up or we get a bunch of rain, it might change it a little bit. But this ice isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
No, it's not. And I mean, honestly, the best activity down here would probably be morning and evening still, for especially as we get in through January. But yeah, if you're looking for a place to come down and set a couple tip-ups and fish for an evening and do some jigging, I had no problem coming down here.
Perfect. All right.
Walleye.
Let's keep moving. All right, so now we are at Volks Landing. It's not a Volkswagen, it's a Volks Landing. And when we were walking out here, Bob was talking about some really interesting tidbits about the cracks that are out here, and you had kind of mentioned some stuff. So I'm just going to let you talk about cracks and what to pay attention to with them.
Sure. Obviously here on Green Bay, it's a big body of water. It's very dynamic. We get current, we get wind, and anything can cause these cracks to heave, split at any given time, right? So you really have to pay attention when you're coming out of any of these spots, especially this early ice. When we know the bay is not frozen across and there's boat traffic coming down every day or every other day, any kind of a split going along that's a long distance can potentially open up at any time. Now, this crack we're standing on here is pretty healed, right? This is fairly close to shore. It's inside of the point. So the chances of this having a problem are very, very slim. But if you're walking out and you get out here more and you see more of this type of crack, or a crack where there's a little shove or a heave on it, any potential offshore wind, south wind, southeast wind, east wind, southwest wind even, has the potential to move this ice pack just because there's open water out beyond it. Now, when we were coming up, south of here from Point Sable up to Point Vincent was open water right into shore. I mean, there's open water right up to shore, and that hits just outside of Point Comfort here and goes straight out. So, and from where we're standing, you can see the open water out past where these guys are fishing. So as you're going out here and playing around on some of this ice like this, just pay attention to that. You really have to watch that. If you're going along and you see a fracture that looks anything suspicious, if you got offshore wind, I would back up, not go across that crack. I mean, right now we've got a tickle of breeze coming inshore, so it's not too bad today, and you could probably go out here and fish safely today, if you will. But you still have to watch that. If we get a couple days of offshore wind, and even if this ice doesn't break and that current shifts, the next day that potential's still there for a problem. So you really got to pay attention to it, watch what you're doing out here.
As an inland lake fisherman myself, I never really pay attention to the wind. Now, once you get on these big bodies of water, that's something that you should look into in your future casts. You do it all the time.
Absolutely.
Open water fishing.
Correct.
I never would have thought you'd have to do it for ice fishing.
Yeah, on Green Bay, I mean, literally anybody will tell you that's done this a long time out here, any kind of a south wind is detrimental to this ice condition, especially when we're not locked in. Now, last February, by the middle of February, when we had frozen ice up past Chambers Island and even to the north of that, the bay was almost entirely frozen all the way to Escanaba at one point. Potential of things to shift are very, very slim. Your chances of an offshore wind causing a problem are much slimmer. Now, we still get cracks,
Yep.
right? We get pressure cracks. As you get into midwinter and when this freezes over, you can have pressure cracks, right? That's expansion, contraction of the ice, and wave action potentially causing this fracture, and those pressure cracks have potential to open and close. But typically, if you're locked in, we saw it last year. We had a working crack, we call it a working crack, all winter inside of where we were fishing. Some days it was tight. You'd go over it. Some days it'd be 16 inches, 18 inches wide. That's why we use bridges. But, you still have to pay attention to all that stuff. And a crack is suspect anywhere along the edge.
Yep.
For you're taking a vehicle across, an ATV, UTV, as you walk along an ice, even this ice, you walk along and look at it and you see potential fissures, right? Any of those have potential to fracture at any time with the right pressure on them. So you have to really pay attention to what you're doing.
Perfect. That's great information. So there's quite a few shacks that are out here. So obviously there's really good, safe ice from what we're guessing out that far. I mean, some of those shacks are 600-700. There might even be 1,000 yards off of shore. Yeah. So we're going to go out and just get you an ice measurement from Volks Landing here.
Check the ice next to the crack, so you got hook that edge there. That's about 7-ish, and you check in the crack. Tell you how long it's been froze over, basically. So it's close to the same. So that's probably been frozen over for a while.
Even though the crack distance is a lot bigger, it still had, like you said, I like that term you said, healed over.
Yeah, there's not much difference between here. I mean, you're probably 8 inches there and 7 inches in the crack in this.
But from the last one we just did that little report on, we've only went 50, 60 yards. So it just shows you now we're getting further away from shore. There are more cracks, like Bob said, to pay attention to.
Yeah, and then one of the big things we watch for when we're running out and running people in all season are things like this. This is what could potentially be a keg, right? We call them a keg. So there's a crack that happened here. Now, again, this crack is pretty frozen in, so it's probably not really suspect. But when this crack first happened and there's a secondary split going off of it, you can see that big triangle. If you were coming out here with a machine and didn't know that that was split and put a machine on that, you can walk that and make that keg tip potentially. So a UTV and ATV coming out can tip that, and you put a front end in, back end in, the whole machine, whatever might happen. So
Scott asked a really good question too. Like, let's say there were no shacks out here and it was early on. How far in between holes do you typically go?
15 to 20 yards. If I'm scouting unfamiliar ice that I haven't been on yet. If I'm on a big flat sheet that looks really good, maybe it might be a little further, because if I can see how thick that ice is in general walking. But every time I hit a new patch, like we came from clear ice onto this milky ice, then I start drilling again. I'm checking it as I go. But 20 yards is a good safe distance. It doesn't take much to drill. This little scout drill's quick. Yep. And if you have a light flight auger or something, you can punch holes pretty quick with that stuff. Nowadays, they make it easy. You don't have to lug a big heavy gas auger around or chisel through 10 inches of ice,
Just to find out.
Yeah.
Again, so we're out now. That's probably about 250 yards, and there's still plenty of good ice. We just had 7 inches right here near a working crack, or not a working crack, but a healed over crack. But you can see there's still quite a few shacks out here. So maybe we'll grab a quick interview, see what they would be catching. What is the target species in this Volks area?
Right here, mostly whitefish, I would guess. These guys are probably all hoping for some whitefish coming through here. They're not far enough out to be on the reef. This is Volks Reef is straight out in front of us here. That's probably out where that open water is, and if guys can get out there, if it wasn't open, guys will go out and hit around that reef, and you might find some walleye when this water is especially dirty this time of year. But most likely they're all hoping for some whitefish in here, coming through, going through up here to Bayshore. You might find a walleye in here. You never know.
Okay. All right, let's keep walking. So Scott's showing you just about how far we are out from the landing here. And as we got out here, again, Captain was mentioning some things about these ice conditions out here. So explain what you were telling me.
Yeah, this is obviously, we came on a big flat piece across, and then there was a crack. It's healed up again here, but this is obviously broken ice that re-healed in here. If you look around, it's all milky with a lot of clear spots. So this ice at one time was really busted up with the wind, probably refroze. Now I drilled that clear spot in what I say, 7 inches there. So it's been healed up a while. But this kind of stuff can be very suspect. I mean, offshore wind, you really got to be careful. We got open water only another 150 yards out, give or take. And there's a crack here that's healed, but any kind of potential stuff like this can be a problem. So you really got to just pay attention.
What about water depth right where we are roughly?
We're probably in about 12. We're probably in that range. This is kind of in the bowl here. It's a little shallower towards the point up this way. I would suspect we're in 10 to 12 feet of water here without having a locator to drop down and check it.
All right, so again, we're quite a ways offshore. Ice conditions for the most part as of right now, the 12th are good. We did kind of ask some of the gentlemen around here. It's slow today, the fishing is, if they're trying to go for whitefish. But, I mean, Volks Landing, so far, so good. All right, so now we're at Bayshore, and you just saw them drill here. We got about 9 solid good inches. I mean, that's kind of common for this spot, right, this time of year?
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, it could be more technically, but
right.
But yeah, this is in good shape. This ice here, if you want to trek down the hill, and I mean, it looks like it goes out a ways. There's a few guys out a little further. I can still see that open waterway out there, but yeah, this is in good shape. I mean, it's nice, clear, solid ice. There was a crack up inside of us here, but nothing that was too suspect. It was healed up. Yeah, this ice looks pretty good. Here comes a guy down the hill right now with his ATV.
Yep. So if you saw, there was quite the walk to get down here. There is a set of stairs, but if you're bringing a bunch of gear, that's probably the best way to go about it. But again, like you were mentioning too, this is more of a whitefish spot, potentially a morning, evening walleye spot.
Yeah, correct. I mean, guys will maybe have an opportunity for a walleye, especially early ice like this and late ice if it's good. But this is, again, primarily guys looking for whitefish are out here. You might find a perch roaming around. Might find a little school and get on a couple of them, but you're not going to come here and get a bunch of perch most likely. That's more over on the west shore typically down here. So
what is the structure from some of them spots we've came from like Volks to here? What are we, if you are targeting whitefish, what are you looking for?
I mean, honestly, if you can find anything that's a little rockier is probably better. I mean, most of this is going to be some sand, maybe a few scattered gravel patches, if you will. But if you can find areas that have some rock in them down there, that's probably going to be better if you can locate that. But you might take some hole hopping, put a camera down, look at it a little bit. But these fish, most of these fish are transient. Not that there's not a local population in the wintertime that hangs out here, but a lot of this are fish that were spawning somewhere south and they're moving their way back up the bay. So this can be good early and then it can kind of die off, you know.
So
and it's shallow water, so the fish can be spooky if you get a lot of people here.
With like live imaging, it looks like there's somebody using it over there. Do you really target the big giant schools with that, or is it just kind of luck of the draw finding them that way?
Probably more luck of the draw out in this open, you know, with not really structure here. Now, if we were out near a reef, it's a little different, but this isn't a lot of structure orienting fish here. So, yeah, it probably is luck of the draw. But, I mean, any kind of a live scope, active target, that kind of stuff, Humminbird, Mega Live, it's probably an advantage these days with put it down, scan around. If you don't see some fish moving around, move a little bit till you start to pick up some fish.
And it seems like the one we just talked about, using the live scope, just put a fish on the ice. Nice. So, I mean, obviously he found something, but again, yeah, he just chucked it out there on the ice. So it looks like a whitefish from this distance. So again, Bayshore, if you're coming up here looking for whitefish, the ice is really good condition. And then hopefully the fish are kind of still going to be in here. Now, you say they're migrating. When does that start and when does that kind of stop for the whitefish?
Well, the migration starts after they spawn, right? So they come down in the fall, like November into December, and they're spawning up in the Fox. That down this way. Okay. Now, they also spawn across in the Menominee, Marinette, some in Oconto, et cetera. And there are, you know, the biologists have said there's some shoreline spawning that happens in a few areas down here also. But that's what happened. They spawned. Now they're going back to their deeper water or to where they want to find food, right? So a lot of these migrational fish are just kind of cruising up the shoreline, working their way up towards that deeper water where they're going to probably end up in the summer. And on their way, they're going to collide with these structures, rock structures. Or if they hit a school of gobies or freshwater shrimp or something like that, maybe they'll hang out and eat. Okay. You know, but that's what's going on. So these fish are moving back north typically or out to deeper water. Because down here is a lower bay, right? It's going to warm up eventually in the spring, summer. They're not going to want to hang out in this warm water. They're going to want to be close to deep water where it's colder.
Perfect. Again, great information from Bob. We're lucky to have him with us today. I think we're going to keep moving on. We're heading further north and checking out a couple more spots. But, I mean, typically the way you're going to find it, the further north you're going, the better ice conditions are, and that's what we're finding so far. Maybe we'll run into somebody that's got a great ice report or a fishing report for us as well. So we're going to carry on. that's pretty much the most we've found so far.
Yeah, pretty much. I think we had a couple spots of right around that 9-inch mark back there by Bayshore, but yeah, this is a solid 9 right here. I mean, we are standing on a weird little crack that you can see where it fractured along here, and there's a little water came up through it even.
Yep.
You know, you can see we can see off in the distance a shove way out there. That's probably a good couple miles out, but you can see that shove where that ice had blown back in from maybe the boat or pushed out and back. One lonely shack out there.
One. You got a super zoom on that thing. So, I mean, again, if we're on 9 inches, excuse me, right here, who's to say he might be on 9 out there? He may be on 4 to 5 out there, but.
Yeah. I mean, you can see this crack that is right here where we are goes straight out, and you can see where it runs pretty long distance out that way where that split. It's not open, but could be suspect later. But this looks like the same kind of ice pack going out at least another couple hundred yards here.
So again, this is a whitefish spot, or is this now because there is a river technically in this area, we might see some walleye?
Mostly whitefish. If you get out towards what's called Mako's Reef out here, some guys will find some walleye around that. There's no doubt about it. So if you can work your way out, I don't know what the ice looks like out by Mako's. That shack might be darn close to Mako's.
Okay.
That structure, that piece of rock will have some whitefish and walleye cruising around on it both. So.
What about burbot? Are those out this far? Are they around here?
We don't really, I don't know that we get a lot down here. We get them up by us on the main reef, on Larson's Reef. They come in there to spawn. So, I mean, not saying you probably can't find any down here, but I don't know if it's as common as we see up that way.
Okay. Yep. So again, Red River, another popular spot. There's only one vehicle here today, but it is kind of, you know, that tail end of the week. Doesn't mean it may not get a lot more pressure this weekend, but safe ice so far, a couple hundred yards off of shore, and there is one brave soul out there, so there's at least probably, you know, potentially 4 to 9 inches out that far as well. So again, just pay attention to the upcoming forecast. There is some 40, 50 degree temps this far north. Do you think they'll have a bearing on it if we do get that warmer weather?
Oh, absolutely. I think with this weather coming, it's going to hit us pretty hard, that 40s. With the rain, this ice can take a beating pretty quick. You know, is it going to all go away? Probably not, but just be careful.
All right, Red River, safe as of right now. Pay attention to the weather, like Captain Bob said, but you're plenty of good ice. You know, it's a couple hundred yards from shore, so go ahead and check this spot out as well. All right, so we are here at Shador's Dock, and quite the different background on this one.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different. I mean, we've got a bunch of shove ice and broken ice within 100 yards of the front of the pier head here, and looks like little hot spots of open water next to it. And then again, north of us here, even more open water. Looks like straight off of Sugar Creek, there's a big patch of open water up there, so right off of Sugar Creek.
Yeah, so you're probably not going to do a whole lot of ice fishing very far out from the shoreline on this spot. But now, if weather conditions get right, do you think this will be fishable at any point?
Yeah, once we get that drop in temperature, this will freeze up, even though it's going to be rough. It will freeze up, lock in, and guys should be able to get out here. But it's going to take a little bit, I think. It doesn't look like really anybody's been poking around here, and for good reason, obviously.
Right. So now, don't forget, everybody, Bob is the elite, one of the elite whitefish guides up here. What do you know going on further north when you're getting anxious to get out there? What are the reports up there?
Yeah, I mean, from here north, like the Lime Kiln area outside a little Sturgeon Bay, that, again, there's a big crack that split open. There's open water up that way. I know guys are walking off at Lime Kiln, but it's only a couple hundred yards of ice there. You have to be really cautious with that. There are people fishing in Little Sturgeon. They're getting some perch and some pike in there and a few whitefish out near the front. But again, that's out near the front of Little Sturgeon is pretty shaky. The reports that I've heard and seen from the back of Little Sturgeon, even from 4 inches to 8 inches of ice. So use good caution. Have been guys taking ETVs. I still don't advise it. Be very cautious. Know what you're getting on before you run around, especially after we get warm weather again. Riley's Bay, same thing. It's frozen back there, but not the best ice. There are a few guys poking around. Oak Avenue, Cabot Point, I would stay away from those. The ice at Cabot Point off the lighthouse blew out and blew back in, and it's really nasty. It looks a lot like this up there. So I would kind of stay real cautious with that stuff. Wouldn't even touch it really at this point unless we get a cold spell. Oak Avenue's been really rough shape, same thing. So There are some guys catching some pike downtown Sturgeon Bay. And, if somebody's looking to walk around down there, just use caution. The boats have been in and out. That's probably Sawyer Harbor, same thing. The guys are kind of roaming around back there, getting a few pike and some perch. That ice has been okay, but use caution. There can be some real thin spots in there because of the current around the islands.
Yep.
So just use caution. But again, that ice has been a little bit better if people are looking for somewhere to go right now. So, and then I know on the West Shore, we didn't go up the West Shore today, but like Hook Road, Swamico, Longtail, Littletail area, they've been getting some perch activity out there, a few walleye. That ice has been better. But again, I've heard reports of some spots in that 4 inches. So, even though you may be around 9-10 inches in some areas, just be cautious. All this stuff is really suspect right now.
So once we get the cold front that we kind of see is later January, first part of February, do you still have quite a few openings for if anybody's looking to book a whitefish trip with you?
Yeah, we have a lot of weekday openings, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. I don't have anything locked up tight yet on those days. I got some Fridays that are getting close to full in February. I've got 2 Saturdays completely booked in February. I think the first weekend in February, I'm close. I've only got 1 or 2 shacks open. Second and third weekend in February, I'm booked tight on Saturdays. I do have some openings on all those Sundays, a few. And then I've got openings end of February into March. And right now this year, this is one of those years where we're going to be able to fish. Technically, we don't have to have our shacks off until like the third weekend in March. So we'll get a long season that way if the ice holds up for us. So we'll have bookings in through March, through that third week in March right now.
Anybody's interested, where should we send them to get all your information?
You can find me on Facebook, always Fin Fanatic Charters. You can go to my website. That's finfanatic.net. I have an ice fishing page on there with my rates and all the information on what we do. finfanaticcharters@yahoo.com is my email, or they can certainly give me a call. My cell, 920-360-2904. Give me a shout and we'll get you booked and talk to you about what we've got to offer. So.
Well, cool, everybody. Hopefully this report showed you that there are some good areas of ice. We didn't get a whole lot of information on those catching fish. I think you know who you are. You were supposed to be at work today, so they didn't really want to talk to us today. But, ice conditions for the most part are pretty decent as we travel along the East Shore. Like Bob said a bunch of times that we kind of mentioned, it's just use caution when you're going out. But I highly recommend it. If you're looking for a whitefish trip, definitely contact Bob. He'll put you on. He showed you how much knowledge he has on this body of water just talking on the ice conditions. Wait till he puts you a rod in your hand and he's catching whitefish with you. So we appreciate you making time today, my friend. Again, check them all out on all his socials. Give him a call, look up his email, all that information. But the next ice report I think we're doing, everybody, is we're going to go back to the Bago system. We're going to give you that kind of information. But as for right now in the Green Bay system, hopefully you find this informational. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to all our social media channels, and we'll see you on the next one.